Hey everybody, welcome back to the Live Ultralight podcast powered by Outdoor Vitals. Today, we have a very special episode because we're recapping our OV 100-mile hike on the Colorado Trail. So every single year, we do a 100-mile challenge where we get hundreds and hundreds of you guys listening to this to join us and go do a big effort. It's a really, really cool program. We have tons of interactions in our closed Facebook group, and just there's a lot that go on, but we get excited about this every year because mainly we get to go do a sweet hike and share that with other people that are also doing this. So this particular episode, we're going to be recapping that. It was a pretty eventful year, but we also have an old face and a new face in here. So we'll do some introductions, and then we're going to jump into the Colorado Trail this year. So Caden, you're the new face around here. Why don't you let people know who you are, where you come from, what you stand for, those kind of things.
All right, sounds good. So my name is Caden. I'm from northern Utah. I came down here for school and have been working at Outdoor Vitals for the last...
have been working out, yeah.
Yeah, I've been working out. Buff. No, I'm just kidding. I'm a noodle.
You've been challenging me to all sorts of contests.
Yeah. I've just been working at Outdoor Vitals for the last couple of years, just in the warehouse, doing returns, doing a little bit of marketing, and I really like anything in the outdoors: backpacking, trail running, mountain biking, skiing, just anything, you name it. And so it's been really awesome getting to know the gear, the people, and go on these kind of adventures.
Caden had backpacked a total of 1 mile before he started the 100-mile challenge with us. No, he had never done as big of an effort. So we'll dig into that in this show because, you went from minimal backpacking, but maybe average person backpacking to really scaling that up. And so there's some lessons in there to dig into. But then we've also got Derek. So who are you, Derek?
You've seen me before. I get picked on here. He's calling me the old face because I turned 30 and I'm a dad now. But
the legendary mustache.
Yeah. So
I used to get teased a lot for my beard, but I think your mustache is more iconic now than what I rock. So
yeah, I don't know, but yeah, you guys have seen me before. I'm the marketing director. Every now and then I hop on the podcasts and share my 2 cents. Yeah, Caden's actually my cousin, so I can pick on him a little bit. He is single. He does work out and pretty active. So, yeah, just putting that plug in there. But
you can only date him if you live in Cedar because he needs to stay here at Outdoor Vitals. So.
Yeah. We grew up in the same place, and we grew up in northern Utah and did a lot of stuff outdoors. But, yeah, you guys have heard from me before. So,
yeah. You will notice that only 3 people can fit in the frame, so we kicked Brigham off the podcast. But not really. He actually kicked himself off the podcast by not finishing the hike with us, which is a big shocker to all of us. So we're going to talk about that as well. And we have a follow-up episode to this one where I talk with another person that was on the hike that also didn't finish the hike with us. So look for that episode to come out likely after this one, with Craig Obrist.
You won't have to wait long. It'll be pretty soon. So just keep your eyes peeled.
Yep. Okay, so let's dive in really quick. We'll talk about what the challenge is, then we'll talk about the hike that we planned and how it went. So the challenge itself started 4 or 5 years back now, I want to say, with the concept of getting out there for a day or two at a time. It's great. It's super beneficial to physical, mental, emotional health, which is our purpose here at Outdoor Vitals. Is to get people into the outdoors to benefit those. But we've seen that when we go on these bigger hikes, you get more time to disconnect. And that's really where you can make a lasting, more meaningful impact with spending time outdoors. And so we had goals to go do some 100-mile hikes as a team. And we just realized how cool it is to cross a 100-mile mark. And we did some surveys too and realized that tons of people that are customers of the brand have never gone that far. Yes, we have thru hikers. Thru hikers obviously hike thousands of miles, but the vast majority of people listening to this have never done a continuous 100-mile hike. And so we had this idea to, help people go and do those things. 1, to set a goal, but 2, to give them the tools that they need to do that. So we created this challenge, and it's been really amazing. It's grown by hundreds of more people every single year that we've done it. And we, give them the tools to execute this, to train, how to train, troubleshooting, planning, all these different kinds of things. And then we just go do a 100-mile hike. Now, some people break that into what's called the stacked method. which at first we didn't offer that, but over time, by popular demand, we now offer a stacked version, which means you could go and do a couple of trips to get to 100 miles over the course of kind of a summer or the dates on this hike. But the pinnacle for us is to get people to where they're doing a 100-mile continuous hike. So us being the good, students that we are of the course, we try to go do our own 100-mile hike every year. And for the last couple of years, we have wanted to do the entire Colorado Trail. To do that, we wanted to do that in 4 years because it was a 480-mile trail. So we did that 2 years back and did the first 100 miles from Durango to above Silverton, a place called Stony Pass. And then last year, me and Brigham were going to be the only ones that were able to go due to some people expanding families and other things going on. But I wrecked on my mountain bike and dislocated or separated my shoulder a week before we were supposed to go. So that got canceled. So then we got to come back this year to do the second segment of the Colorado Trail. And again, going back to that theme of we kind of wanted to do this over 4 years. So this year we actually set out to do on paper 135 miles, which is the biggest hike we've ever done. Historically, we've gone between about 100 and close to 110. So we've been right there at 100, though, not much past that. So this was going to be a huge jump to go from 105 miles to 135 plus miles. So we added a day. We usually were doing this in a 5-day window. We decided we needed to go to a 6-day window. But even with that, this is going to be challenging.
I was telling my father-in-law about it a couple months before, saying, I just said something like, I've got a trip coming up. It's like 135 miles in 6 days or something like that. And his immediate question was like, well, what are you riding? My feet? He didn't believe me for a second.
Or a mountain bike or?
Yeah, exactly. No, he didn't quite believe me at first. We were going to do that.
We are kind of a crazy group of people because sometimes you'll tell people stuff like that and they just look at you and they're like, why do you do that? Or when I ran, like the one that I'll never forget is when I was running my ultra, 100-mile ultra marathon. I had a family member that literally and very seriously asked if I was okay. Like, are you okay? Like wondering if I was like, I don't know, like mentally ill, you know what I mean? Like, but when when you go do some of this stuff, and we don't recommend you just cold turkey this stuff, but the more you go, the more you learn to love it and the more you realize how possible it is. And it's just crazy how far you can walk in a day if you just walk the whole day. It's nothing that hard per se in terms of, everyone can typically walk. Well, most of us can typically walk. And so to be able to walk all day, as long as you can do that, you can cover some crazy mileage and do some amazing things, especially if you're willing to do it day after day. So yeah, stats on this trip, we're looking at over 135 miles. It ended up being about 140 with about 22,000 feet of vertical climbing and about 25,500 feet of descent because we were going to start lower. The trailhead for us this year actually started at about 12,500 feet. So we drove straight to 12,500 feet, got out of the car, and started hiking from there, which was pretty different. But this year we had 5 of us that were set out to go on this hike. Caden tried to bail. He was pretty on the fence, and I had to, threaten his life a little bit, but we got him.
Tayson mentioned that, we're kind of doing our own homework here. We're, learning ourselves as we put out this course for the 100-mile challenge and to help people prepare. And we're preparing as well. You'll see us in the Strava groups or anything doing our own training. But one of the rules is you got to do a shakedown trip to be able to go on the actual 100-mile trip. That way you have a good idea of what to expect, the big mile days, what they're going to feel like. And so Caden had done his shakedown trip, and that's kind of what shook him up, actually. Because we had him do a shakedown trip that in reality was harder than most of the days that we were doing.
But someone planned it. It wasn't in this room, all right?
We didn't, Tayson and I, we didn't plan that. Another guy planned it. And anyways, Caden, he did well. But that wasn't, and understandably, wasn't as fun as maybe he was expecting originally by the time I got through that shakedown trip. And there are some other things we found out, right, Caden, about maybe some nutrition and hydration really as well that made a huge difference. But
So as a student of this course, what was the biggest things just really quick, what were the biggest things you took away from your shakedown trip? that you carried into the actual trip?
I think it was just that even if you're feeling fine, you're not, which like it sounds so dark or like so ominous, but it was like, I don't know, if you're only going to be doing 1 or 2 days, then nutrition's important, but it doesn't matter as much. But what I found, especially on the shakedown, was that I felt fine. And so I was like, oh, I'm probably fine. I'm probably eating enough. And then the next day I was just so much more tired and so much more sore than I was on the actual OB100 every single day, And so I think I just didn't drink enough and I didn't eat enough. Even though I felt fine, I should have been proactive about recharging and having snacks, having a full meal for dinner instead of just getting to the camp and being like, all right, I'm alone. I don't want to attract bears. I'm just going to eat snacks and go to bed, So I think that was the big thing. And also just mindset, doing it solo and just more focused on the grind than the actual scenery, I think put me in a negative mindset. Whereas on the OB100, it was good to be with people and be experiencing it. And also I was just really focused on having a good mindset and for like internal dialogues or whatever, just always trying to be positive with it. And that really, really helped the trip for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you came off that shakedown trip and you were kind of like, I don't think I'm going to go, guys. Cause you're thinking it was way harder than you thought. You were out there solo, which you didn't like as much. I love solo hiking, but it's not for everyone. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of brutal. And so then I remember we kind of looked at the stats and looked at it and we're like, man, you really had like a rough day. It was a long day. And we looked at it a little bit more and it was like, okay, it's not going to be as hard as your shakedown trip. It really should come. Plus, I think Derek pointed out, like, you're training more than almost any one of us right now. So you're probably in better fitness than all of us this year in particular. So you should come. And anyway, eventually we got you to come on. It was a big event, milestone to get him to commit. But
we pulled up the maps and everything on Onyx and we're like, look, this is the real elevation. We can just trace it right here and prove to you that it's going to be less than your shakedown trip. And that's like the final tipping point, I think, at least from what I saw.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, it's okay. That proves it. It is going to be easier.
Yeah.
Well, day by day, at least.
Yeah, first single day. But I mean, honestly, I was pretty nervous myself going into this one because, in years past, I've been training for an ultra marathon. And this year, I didn't sign up for any ultra marathons. And so my training just wasn't as intense, especially endurance training, wasn't as good as it has been in years past. And so I was nervous about that. And kind of to build on what Caden was talking about with nutrition, my strategy going into it was, look, I've learned a lot about nutrition the past few years for endurance sports. And I'm like, I just have to nail nutrition and that'll be, quote unquote, my secret weapon to do well with the lack of training that I had. But I was actually quite nervous. Brigham kept saying, he's like, I think you guys are all, too nervous. He's like, you guys are more fit or capable than you think you are. But I think all of us are like, I don't know, we've been on some pretty rough days, had some pretty challenging times. Hopefully fitness is there. I think that kind of went for you too, Derek.
Yeah.
As far as how you felt like coming into this.
That's definitely how I felt. I definitely trained a lot less this year. My daughter turns 1 today, actually. But for the last year, I've kind of prioritized spending time with her in the mornings, letting my wife sleep in, especially in this first year. We've had a lot to do to learn and figure things out. And so mornings have been historically when I've done training, and a lot of it. And then this year, I still did, but not nearly as much, if that makes sense. And so, I was definitely same as you, Tayson. I was nervous a little bit. I'm like, this is like definitely more miles and a ton of elevation still. And I feel like I've just trained less. So I was a little bit like, we'll see how it goes. But
yeah. And then the last part of all this was we decided to bring someone, quote unquote, from outside the office for the first time. We work with a photographer, videographer named Craig Obrist. Quite a lot. If you've ever seen our catalog, you've seen Craig. And we're like, let's bring him on this hike to help capture it. And so, Derek did some vetting of him. He's a fit guy, and we thought that we could handle it. So that was the crew. We had 5 of us heading out there, and we started with 5. And on the way up to, I remember this, on the way up to the trailhead, I was already trying to talk Craig out of taking as much camera gear as he had because
It's so much.
And it worked. He did leave like a whole extra camera body behind, a couple other things.
we dropped probably 3 to 4 pounds out of his pack before we got started. But we'll come back to that in just a minute. But we started with 5 of us. Beautiful weather was supposed to be rainy like the whole week. So we were a little bit nervous about that, definitely expecting some weather. But when we started, absolutely stunning views, absolutely beautiful. We won't talk about the fact that I marked the trail right out of the gate, but we got on the right trail and started in the right general direction. But it was fun. I mean, very first people we met on the trail was this super nice lady from Australia who was carrying a shadow light. So it was way cool. I feel like my days of being incognito after shaving the beard is gone now.
Everybody still recognized Tayson if they were familiar with OV.
Yeah, there was a while where I felt like there's almost a year where not many people, like I was just a dude, you know. It was which I still am. I'm just a random guy, but no, it was really cool to see her. And then right after that, we started up a hill, and I remember kind of seeing Craig was a little bit in the back, but Brigham was with him, and I was like, that's weird. That's not like Brigham. If you've ever listened to this podcast, you'll know that Brigham hikes in the number 2 position at all times. He doesn't like to be the guy in the lead, but he does not like to be anywhere except for in the 2nd position on the trail. Like, I kid you not, I have seen him take the lead one time. I remember where it was at. I remember what was going on. It was on the Highline Trail. He decided to go in front of us, and that dude like took off like a rocket. We didn't see him until like we stopped for like a meal. He was like halfway across a basin, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this guy doing? But usually he's just always in position 2. So to see him farther back hiking in the group, I was like, that's weird. I just noted that. And then we go a little bit farther, and we hit the next hill, and he was in the back. And at that point, I was like, something's wrong with Brigham. Something's going on. And I said something to, I think it was Craig, and he's like, oh, really? Like, he seems fine. I'm like, no, he doesn't hike there, you know? So it wasn't maybe a few minutes later where Brigham's like, all right, I got to tell you guys something. I've been sick the last few days, and I thought I was going to be all right. I thought maybe I'd just wake up feeling better, but I haven't. And I'm already like feeling it essentially. So then we were aware of it, and, but we continued to tried to hike our continuous speed because we had to average 25 miles a day to do this. That was our goal, is to average 25 miles a day. And then that put us on the last day, still having to hike 10 to 15 miles. And that's if there was no issues throughout the whole thing. So kind of for safety, it was better for us to plan to hike 25-ish and then have maybe a hair of safety for the last day if we needed to do something, or if something happened, or if we just, hit a lightning storm where we had to go to a complete stop one day or something. So we're trying to just keep the pace that we needed to keep, and Brigham starts then drifting off the back of the group. And I'm just thinking, man, that is like, he must be really hurting. I remember saying that a few times, like, he must be really hurting. Something's really not right. And I think we made it, was it 8 or 10 miles?
It was 9.
9?
Yeah.
Okay. So we made it 9 miles, and Brigham, I looked back and he kind of held up his arms to kind of signal us to stop. And so we stopped, and he caught up to us and was like, guys, I'm turning around. This isn't in the cards for us, for him, which was like crazy to me to see him turn around. And especially like what felt like turn around just so quickly. So I was like, man, something's really not right. But it was a really inconvenient thing to do because we're in the middle of the wilderness in Colorado. Like, the closest cities are tiny, tiny, tiny towns. So I kind of tried to talk him into being like, well, what if you just go forward but slower, and then we pick you up at the end of the week or something? Like, you can solo hike or something. But he's like, no, like, this isn't good. And with the altitude and stuff, I'm going to get altitude sick, I can tell. And so he decided to turn around, which meant he had to walk the 9 miles back to the trailhead and then try to get a shuttle down to the city. And if you can't get a shuttle down to the city, then it's another 10 plus miles.
Mm-hmm. By shuttle, we mean Silverton. Jeep.
Yes. By shuttle, I mean hitchhike. I meant to say hitchhike. You'd have to hitchhike with whoever's passing him by to get down to the city, which is, I would say at least another 10 miles, if not 15. So yeah, it's a big endeavor, and it's tough to send him back because then you get to Silverton. Silverton's a tiny town in the middle of the mountains. I mean, it is far from anywhere. It's not like you can pick up a shuttle or a bus or an Uber. There's just not options. And so he basically was like, I'm going to have to call my wife and have her come all the way out to pick me up. I tried to get it, we tried to work it so that maybe our shuttle drivers could pick him up. But that didn't end up working out, or I don't know if he never really reached out to him. I don't think he ever really did, but so yeah, we send him back. We don't know how he's doing or anything like that, and we continue forward. But yeah, day one was awesome. We got some rain. The weather was really cool. A lot of like rain without lightning, which is pretty rare, I feel like, out there. There was some rolling of thunder off in the distances, but never anything that felt scary or close, which is like perfect because it's like borderline cold, which if you followed our trip from 2 years back on the Colorado Trail, we were baking. It was like 80 degrees at 12,000 feet. It was so hot. So the weather was just perfect, borderline cold. You could wear a rain jacket and not feel like you're overheating. And so absolutely perfect temperatures. But what do you guys remember about day one in particular?
I was loving it. I think day one was really, really cool because of how high we were. And when we started out, we kind of stayed that high and went through a bunch of passes and basins that were just really pretty. There's a lot of moose in one of them.
We saw like 4+ moose in the one drainage.
And some of my favorite ways to see new places is actually in cloudy or rainy conditions. For whatever reason, I just really appreciate how that changes everything. It just makes everything look and feel different, and basically it makes, I don't know, for me, it just does something different. I just really appreciate being in those kinds of environments because it's like, sunshine and nice days. It's like, I don't know, it feels kind of like you're just at home almost. But
especially when there's this much smoke in the air. It's not like we have amazing visibility too. So you almost may as well have some kind of dynamic weather coming through and just changing it up.
Just really cool looking. Everything was cool. It was, and then like you said, the temperatures, it felt great. It looked great. Just really nice, fresh legs. Day one, everything was good. Mm-hmm. I really loved it. So
me and Derek thought the weather was great. Caden was hiking around in his puffy jacket, shivering teeth. No. How'd you feel about day one?
It was good. I think I was struck by how cool the terrain was because the only other experience I had at that high of elevation was on the shakedown for parts,
Which that's pretty, but it's way smaller. Like there's like
it's not nearly as expansive. Yeah.
On also day one, there's basically the world is your oyster in terms of conversations. I mean, you're with the same 4 people for 6 days.
You have not fatigued conversations.
You can talk about whatever you want and it's fresh, it's new.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so true. Oh man,
we talked about some weird stuff on this trip. All over the place.
Correction. Caden talked about.
I did talk about a lot of weird stuff. I'm a theoretical conversationalist.
Yeah, we'll get to our last day's conversation as we're walking to the vehicle. I'll remember that one for a while. Expansive views, really pretty.
Just gorgeous.
I mean, you seem to be pretty excited about seeing some of the animals we were seeing. We were seeing. Deer, moose,
that was super
wild
cool.
humans.
Wild humans.
Caden's
a wild man in a loincloth.
This is Caden's first time being on a long trail too, so you were kind of getting a taste of like the hiking culture and the people, and like seeing dirt bags in the wild. Like it was. So I mean, what was that kind of like? Seeing some of that. It was like just these people awesome. That have been on the trail for hundreds of miles. Yeah,
it's the kind of people that you could sit down with and they just have. You could write a book about their life and they're only 25, and it's like that was really cool to see. And I was struck by how incredibly friendly everybody was. How it was just like every single person that you pass, with very little exception, was just really excited to be there, and they liked seeing the new face. You could start up a conversation with anyone. And it was so friendly that when you got the person that was normal and like didn't start up a conversation or didn't say hello. They just said hi. They just said hi or they just nodded. You were like, wow, what a jerk.
They just said hi.
Yeah. It was by the end of the trip, it was like, wow, this is a really nice culture. And yeah, seeing the animals was awesome. I thought seeing all the marmots was
Oh,
hilarious.
so many marmots
Mhm.
in that first day.
They're so fat, and they
Caden
just
really,
are so
really wanted the
accurate,
marmots
you know?
to be a fox every day.
Every day. I was like,
that a
oh, it's
fox?"
red.
I'm
Oh,
like,
no.
no, that's another marmot, Caden.
Yeah. Because there was one that had the puffiest tail, and I was like, that has to be a fox. And then it got out of the grass where you could actually see it, and was like, oh, nope, just a chubby gopher. Like,
Oh, man, that's awesome.
yeah, it's funny.
So we also had Craig with us, and we had taken, I think right out of the gate we took a couple battery banks and a couple things, but he was carrying the camera gear for the most part, which is kind of like a camera guy's usual thing. Like they usually are carrying most of the stuff. They usually want it on them as much as we can, but
So Craig, that's his work. That's what he does. And as a friend, we flew him out here. We wanted to hike together, but he was used to carrying camera gear. For some context, that's just what
he'd been
does.
training like a madman to come out here with us. He's run ultra marathons, stuff like that, but he had been training a lot. He was very nervous about keeping up, and
He lives at 600 feet.
yeah, he lives at 0 altitude, and coming out here that much more hard on the body and whatnot. But he was doing great, but like I didn't really know how much weight he was carrying. I do know that he was carrying this big chest rig though, and inside this chest rig he had like a drone and a camera body and I don't know, probably snacks or something, other things, right?
Lens or yeah.
Batteries, and the chest harness was huge. I was like, holy smokes, man, that thing is big. He's like, yeah, but I just got it all right here. You really liked it, but. So I didn't really know how much weight he was carrying more than us, but it was like a concern. But he was crushing it. He was keeping up with this the whole time, doing well. So I'm feeling really good about that because I'm like, I didn't know. Like, what if he gets out here and he's not? I've never hiked with him in my life before. None of us have. So that was like a really good thing to see. But as anything, I hold my breath until the start of day 2 because we've had to kick a few people off trail before and. Sometimes you need a whole day of hiking and then start the next day to really see if, they're going to be okay with altitude. Altitude sickness was a huge fear of us. To start at 12,500 feet is unlike any hike we've ever done. We never really start that high. And so I think all day I was probably acting like Mama Bear, just being like, you guys drinking enough? You get enough electrolytes? Like, because that's like the biggest thing you can control at altitude is your hydration once you're actually on the trail. And so really managing that and consistent calories is one of your best tools. And so really wanted to make sure that no one was going to get altitude sick. And a lot of times you don't know till maybe the end of day 1 when they're trying to sleep or the start of day 2 when they wake up and they tell you that they didn't sleep or that they had issues. So I was kind of holding my breath the whole day, but Craig was doing great. The biggest thing I really remember from day 1 was we hit the high point of the Colorado Trail at 13,100 feet, I think or a couple hundred feet.
It's like 13 to 33.
Yeah, so hit that, and then right after that, we had these really beautiful views down towards Lake City, and it was just really pretty. Like sun setting, it had been raining, a little bit of smoke in the air, just super, super pretty. And maybe I'll have to pop a picture in. I think we stopped and took a group photo at that point, and just super pretty. I'll definitely remember that part of day 1.
I loved that part of day 1. That was probably actually, the all of day 1 was great, like I kind of already covered, but that was by far my favorite. It was the sun setting, and that became a trend. Every day following, sunset time was that's the best time ever, no matter where you're at. I just love that. Mm-hmm. But I actually had a really good view when I took a pit stop, so that's also memorable for me.
The other thing I remember from day 1 is a little difficulty experience with my tent. So
we got to the camp that night. Kind of came off this hill, and we were kind of down by this water source. We went off, I don't know, a couple 100 yards or something, and found this nice, pretty flat meadow. And Caden pulls out his tent, and we're all setting up camp, and all of a sudden you hear Caden go, "Oh no!" Just like that.
It was like very seriously, like, "Oh no!" Like, I can't believe this. Oh no! And I'm like, what the freak happened? Did he forget his sleeping bag? Like this could be bad, And so eventually I'm like, "What's going on, Caden? Like, what happened?" And I was literally being like, he definitely either popped his pad, cut his pad open, forgot a sleeping bag, something major like that.
Mhm.
And what was it?
Well, so we sometimes hang up our tents to dry, and after a trip or if it's been washed or something like that.
Got some lines back in the warehouse that you can just throw them over.
And so when you wash it, though, you got to take off all the guy lines so it doesn't get caught in the wash. And discovered that my tent that I previously held up to dry, that had the one I normally use, had all the guy lines and things. I left that one at the office, and I grabbed one that had no guy lines in it. And that's, if you've ever been in a trekking pole tent, that's really important. And so I was like, shoot, what am I going to do for the next 6 days if I can't set up this tent? Am I just going to cowboy this for like the next forever, you know? Or am I just going to get inside the tent and it's just going to be like a sheet over my face for the whole night? And so I was pretty nervous. And then luckily Derek had some extra guy lines, and so we were able to get it all figured out. And they were really nice and helped me with a setup that worked for the rest of the trip. But I was
all had
pretty
a little
nervous.
bit of extra cordage and a few, just a little bit of line here, a little bit of line there.
Well, at this point, also keep in mind, Caden wasn't convinced he wanted to be there. Like we got him to come, right? After that,
we were all holding
trip.
our breath that he was not going to be mad at me and Derek for kind of like slightly pressuring him to come.
We didn't make him, first of all. There was no forcing anyone, but he wasn't sure he wanted to be there yet, for sure. Like he was still figuring that out. And then his tent, he was concerned.
Yeah. I will say this. I kind of forgot about this, but when I got out on trail, I was just severely underpacked for calories for the first couple days. And I was like, what? I don't know. I think I just thought it was like we were going to get on trail later, or I was going to eat a bigger breakfast before getting on trail, or just some of that. So I was like, I felt like I was like 300 to 500 calories under on the day. And I can really notice that. And so that was like a concern for me. It was like, oh man, did I pack like this every day? Did I not quite get enough calories in? What did I mess up here? Cause I was like, almost like on the Wind River trip. If you go back to that trip for me, where I accidentally left food in the car, I felt like I was almost kiting my calories kind of the same way. And yeah, wasn't super happy with that on the first day. And I was like, is this going to be how the whole trip is? Like, I don't know. Cause I pre-pack all of my food for each day. And, for whatever reason, I was really under on the first day. And that made me quite concerned. Comparatively, Caden over here had like 5-star meals for every meal.
Oh, yeah.
And was packing pounds and pounds of food. He was just living it up.
Yeah.
He was feeding squirrels and all sorts of
Heck
things
yeah.
while I'm just watching, wishing I was the squirrel, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you got to understand for everyone, I mean, they know at the office, actually on this trip, I acquired the new trail name Bird Feed from Jason, because normally at the office, I don't eat hardly anything. You know, I'll have a good breakfast, but then I just have granola bars and nuts and snacks for the rest of the day, basically.
It's like a handful of nuts for lunch, like every day. It's like the weirdest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I basically just don't have dinner pretty regularly. And so I end up usually I'd estimate like somewhere between 1,500 to 2,200 calories a day. I'm a pretty active guy, so I definitely am on a deficit most of the time. And so going into this, I was like, all right, if I'm going to make it for 6 days, I got to pack everything, you know? And so I had about 32 to 3,500 calories per day. And
I think you had more than that.
I might
have. You had a lot more like weight in food than me, and that's what I packed. So I think
okay.
you had like 4+.
It paid off. It was quite nice, very cushy. So.
Yeah, he had extra. I was bumming stuff off him whenever he was not finishing stuff. Felt like a beggar out there. But, yeah. Anyway, so I was nervous about that on day one, and then we got to camp. Finished off the day pretty well. We got into camp a little bit later than we wanted, but not like late. We were setting up like just as it got dark. And then, went to bed, woke up the next day, and I was kind of like holding my breath that everyone was okay. And I remember hearing Craig, I think, talking to you, Derek, about like, yeah, I was thinking I was gonna have to go home or something. And I'm like, oh crap! Like Craig's got altitude sickness. He's not feeling good. And anyways, I get out of my tent and talk to Craig, and apparently for whatever reason in the night he had just had like this. I don't know what you'd call it. He essentially decided it was like from heat. Like he was just all tucked up in his sleeping bag or his top quilt and just got overheated, and he woke up and his heart rate was like really, really high, and he like was like almost like panicking or something like that. I can't remember how he described it, but yeah,
he kind of described it like hard catching his breath kind of a thing. Like he was just sounded kind of like panicky to me. Like he was waking up kind of panicking or something. I don't really know. But he said he almost called out to us for help in the middle of the night, like 1 a.m. or something like that. And then he just kind of realized, like, I think I just like got way overheated and hot. And so he like got completely out of his top quilt and laid there for like, so it took him like 20 or 30 minutes to like calm his heart rate down and his breath and stuff. And then he was fine and went back to sleep, which was like, that was pretty concerning. Don't know what that was. Yeah.
I think that the consensus was that he got overheated in his bag because I mean, I was sleeping in a 30-degree bag and I was pretty warm.
Well, we had just completed a wilderness first aid certification like a couple weeks before, right? But nothing he was saying made me like recognize anything. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know what's going on at all here. So we still are kind of like clueless about what actually happened there. But
yeah. Anyways, so I was glad when I got the story and he was feeling totally fine. I'm like, oh, good. Like I thought for sure we were sending 2 people home off this dang trail, and that he wasn't doing well. So started the next day. And I think we started a little bit later than normal, and we grabbed some water pretty close to camp and then kept going. But overall, started day 2, really smooth sailing, about not halfway, but late morning. We got down and crossed a highway. It was a highway that went, I think it's 114 or something, that went down into Lake City. And so, yeah, we crossed that highway. We talked to a hiker there that was headed into town. And so there's kind of a shuttle that would take people down into Lake City, which is pretty cool. It seemed like that was a pretty major stopping point for a lot of thru hikers. And then we climbed a couple thousand feet up to this massive mesa and hiked across this crazy big mesa. I don't know why. This mesa to me was so unique, like, because the best way to describe it is you are literally like right at, I think, 10,000 feet. Maybe it was more. Anyway,
I think it was
11,000 feet maybe. But for like 10 or so straight miles, it was just like flat and almost like in 3 directions, I guess you could say. It was just really weird. Like I've never been that high up in the mountains and felt like I was walking across Kansas.
Like giant prairie looking things.
Yeah, felt like a pioneer. Yeah. All the bugs and the heat and just...
It was very hot. We were crossing it right in the middle of the day, and that heat was brutal. I could feel like beating on my legs and stuff.
You can tell when it's going to rain if you really pay attention to some of the humidity and stuff and the heat, because even if the forecast is like, hey, the temperatures are going to be this today or whatever it is, it's going to feel hotter because humidity is going to increase. And the sun is going to feel a little extra brutal before the storm clouds essentially roll in, which was the case every single day this week, just about. A lot of the mornings and midday would be sunny and get really kind of humid and hot. And then the clouds would roll in and then have some storms in the afternoon. But it was one of those humid, kind of feeling hot times across those exposed plains, I guess. I don't know, mesa, whatever you want to call it. No trees, no bushes, no nothing for shade or any kind of break from that.
Now, remind me, was anyone having issues at that point? Was Craig? I remember Craig was behind us a little bit, but I think that was because he was just filming. Right? He was
filming.
Something else going on with him?
No, I don't think Craig had any issues. He'd stopped and did some drone work, and so that also put him behind because he was flying his drone a little bit.
And the trail was super narrow.
The trail was really narrow, and so it made you walk like this little model walk kind of a thing. Put your
Mhm.
feet way more in front of each other than you would when you're normally walking.
Mhm.
So the trail was just uncomfortable, but I don't think there was any real issues.
Okay.
I was kind of towards the back at that time with Craig, just because, you know, when we were talking, neither one of us really felt like going faster,
Mhm.
especially on that trail, and it was hot. We're like, wow, we're just going to go whatever pace we want. And so we did, but
Yeah. Yeah. So we came across all that. About the time we were getting to the end of that mesa, we stopped for some water, ran into a guy with our CS40 pack that was crushing miles. He was doing like 30 miles a day,
Oh yeah.
all the way from Denver. So that was cool to see. And man, I mean, that's a lot of miles, man. A lot of miles. He said he was getting up at like 4 a.m. to start hiking every day. Super dedicated dude to get that trail done quickly. But yeah, I think we stopped. We stopped for lunch somewhere. we ate lunch at some point. I don't remember where.
that was when we were climbing up away from
that's
that
right.
huge
That's
the
climb.
right.
highway,
Yeah.
Okay.
highway crossing.
Then we stopped for water, and then we went up through some really cool passes that were had some cool views, and we cut around this big kind of basin looking thing, and everything was going good. We were doing good miles. I was feeling good at least, and yeah, no real complaints. I don't think from any of us. We were just working our plan, and we get up to the top of kind of the climb, and we could see some storm clouds rolling in, and so we were kind of thinking, well, let's try to get down and off the top and whatnot. And so we start moving down and off the top. Derek and Caden were in front. I was then hiking, and Craig was in the back, and we came around this bend, and I was like, man, that is so pretty. Like, that would be a great picture shot. And there's a guy coming up, and so I kind of step off the trail, step back on the trail to keep going, and then I just hear like some commotion behind me, and like, oh, are you all right? And I turn around, and Craig is just like yard sailed off of the trail down below the trail, and I'm like, what the heck just happened? Like, you could tell he clearly had fallen. And so I turn around, hustle back up there to see what's going on, and I'm just kind of thinking like, I don't know, I wasn't thinking anything too severe, just slipped or something like that, and took a little tumble. And but I get up there, I can see his knees like cut up and bleeding, and he's got it like his drone is like laying over here, or his camera or something was laying over here, and I mean, it was like a yard sale, and I was like, holy smokes. And so the guy that was passing us, like, he stops and kind of is there for a minute with us talking, but I wasn't sure how bad it was or what was going on. And he's just saying like, oh, my ankle is really what's hurting. And so, yeah, he had come around that corner and thought the same thing I had thought, which was, man, this would be a great picture. And so he was going to pull out his camera. So he had his chest rig open, grabbed his camera out, and then right at that same time, he kind of sees the guy coming in the opposite direction and just totally stumbles on a rock, kind of tries to catch himself, twists his ankle, tumbles off the trail, yard sells the drone and batteries out of his front chest pocket. And he ended up massively twisting his ankle. These guys don't know. They just kept cruising. They weren't concerned about Craig.
We were like half a mile ahead. We hadn't seen him fall. We couldn't even see those guys because of like the curvature of the trail and the terrain. So we had no idea that they weren't right behind us. And so we stop at some point, and we end up waiting there for like 45 minutes. And we're like, what is happening? We're about to start hiking back up, and then we start seeing Tayson and Craig hobbling along on the ridge over. And
yeah, so we kind of got him back up on his feet, and at that point I took his tripod and I took his chest rig and just anything I could that was like camera gear, and I put that on my pack, and I was like, holy crap, this is so heavy. Like, he had a lot of stuff. Like, I was like, dude, your chest rig has to weigh 9-10 pounds, and you have that right on your chest, which means it's not like in your backpack where you can use a frame to disperse that down to your hips. Like, it's like right on your shoulders. And then his tripod had to weigh 3-4 pounds. So I was like, dude, you're like hiking around with like 13 to 15 more pounds than us this entire time. But the first thing I noticed when I put that chest rig on too is I couldn't see my feet anymore. So the very first thing crossed my mind was like, I can't see my feet. Like, it would be way easier to trip now, right? So I don't know if that ended up being a factor or not, but so we got him up on his feet, kind of walking down. We walked about 300-400 yards to a flat spot, and then we sat down and pulled out the Luco tape and whatnot, and tried to tape up his ankle, and then he put his sock on. He had a real tight sock on, but he was moving real slow, real painful, you could tell. And he just kept talking about how he had already done this to his ankle where he'd torn a ligament before. And so he knew what that was like. And he's like, I don't think that happened. You know, I didn't hear like this loud pop or, you know, type of thing. But he's like, but it hurts as bad as that, essentially. So yeah, we eventually catch up to these guys. They waited for us. And now we're feeling like we're like an hour behind schedule. And when you're doing 25-mile days, you don't have an hour of leeway. An hour of leeway means an hour of not sleeping or something like that, like not being at camp in your tent or. Well,
and the other thing, those clouds that Tayson mentioned we'd seen, they were getting close. And actually, right after Tayson and Craig caught up to us is when it started just dumping rain and lightning. There was lightning all over the place. So we actually had dropped low enough to get back into some trees for a minute, right when they caught up to us, which was nice because then we could throw on our rain jackets and actually keep hiking. Had we timed it any differently, we would have been on top of something in the middle of the lightning, and it just would have been pretty bad, potentially.
Our feet were soaked. All the water coming off on the trees. I remember my shoes were just sopping wet with freezing water, and it was quite chilly, but it was good.
Yeah, that's part of hiking with trail runners, right? Is like your feet are easy to get wet, but easy to dry. And you just have to kind of embrace that because a Gore-Tex shoe, a waterproof membrane shoe, once they get wet inside, they just don't dry, like ever, in my experience. It takes so much time and heat and air and stuff to dry them out. So yeah, it is kind of an interesting thing, especially when you throw on things like rain pants and you're wearing trail runners, because rain pants then basically funnel water down your leg. And where's it going to land? It's going to land right in your shoe, you know? So yeah, feet get wet pretty quick with that colder water. But yeah, thankfully we did not have to go across anything too exposed or open when the lightning was there, because had the lightning, come a couple hours earlier, like we could have been on that massive mesa with not a single tree in sight for miles. You know, it would have been, there just was a lot more exposure early in the day. So we were pretty happy to have made it through there. But yeah, Craig was moving pretty good on flat ground and he was climbing pretty well. And then when we'd go downhill, he just would like slow significantly down. So we were aware of that, and we went to go do this climb. And this climb was the stupidest climb. I had all the camera gear at this point, I think. And so we go to do this climb, and it was not even that, like, I don't know. I nicknamed it Stairmaster Hill because it just was like you were on a stair climbing machine. Like no switchbacks, it's just straight up this really steep mountain. And I'm hiking in the back, and that's when my mood got a little dark on me, as I was just like, this really sucks. Like, this is way hard. Like, these guys are kind of like walking away from me on the hill, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm not going to try to chase them down. And like, but really, like, I could just, that weight, that extra, whatever it was, 13 pounds was just like, the second I put it on, it was just so freaking significant. And so I kept telling to Craig, I'm like, dude, I cannot believe you hiked the first day and a half with all of this weight and kept up with us. I cannot believe you know. But that's it. He'd been training his butt off. And was a fit dude and was just mentally ready for that. I was super, super impressed because I would not have done that.
Yeah.
He was prepped.
he was crushing it. So we get to the top of Stairmaster Hill, and we said, hey, we're going to maybe drop down in here, go our normal pace on the downhill, and look for a camping spot and just get to us when you get to us, Craig. Thinking that he was going to like significantly slow down like he had been. So we drop down off that hill. We run into a guy laying in his tent. What was his name? Dang it.
Poncho?
Oh, that's what it was.
Poncho. He was a really cool guy. He was doing the CDT, and he was in no hurry. Like, he was just enjoying the heck out of those trails.
Yeah.
You know, taking quite a few 0 days in towns, and just So he was all about, chatting with us, and it was good to talk with him. But yeah, he I don't know, he'd recognized us from some, from just some of the content I think we'd produced. And so we got talking to him. But Craig came right down the hill and was like, oh man.
He wasn't that far behind
us. He's like right behind
not,
us.
Not very much at all.
And so at that point I'm going, he's good. He's going to totally make this trail work. Like he's going to, be just fine. If he could do that steep drop down that fast, I think he's going to be totally good. So anyways, we hike up, we kind of had a big debate, and we ended up deciding to stop before the next big pass. And we found a really awesome camp spot and had some good dinner right there in camp, got camp set up, and we basically talked through the next day. The next day, we had a couple things. Number one, we had to figure out if Craig was going to go off the trail or not. He was not sure what he was going to be able to do. He was not sure if he needed to turn around. A lot of variables. In my head, like I said, I'm like, oh, Craig's fine. If if he's able to hike, 5 more miles after the anchor roll on the same day, I think he's going to be just fine. Especially, my biggest thing was we just need to carry his camera gear and he'll be fine. Like that's what I was thinking. But the other thing was there was a 14,000 foot peak that's just off the trail here called San Luis Peak, and I wanted to do this 14er. So I lobbied Caden again to come with me, but he told me to pound sand, and I'd already brought him on this crazy hike, and he didn't want to be there. And but ended up being that Craig was the one who wanted to do the peak with me, but he didn't think he could. Well, for sure he wasn't going to do the peak after he rolled his ankle. So the next morning, the plan was for me to get up an hour before everyone else, hit the trail early. These guys, sleep maybe another hour, and then get up with Craig and start hiking and see how Craig's going to feel. And then we'd meet up in the afternoon because I was going to go up and over the peak and then down another drainage that linked back to the trail. And these guys were just going to stay right on the Colorado Trail that whole time. So, from my perspective, though, got up and started hiking, and it was awesome. Saw herds of elk, saw deer, beautiful passes. I like hiking in the morning like that. Got a lot of miles in early in the morning. Got to the peak, and just like any peak, it was really good until you realize that you thought you were at the top and you're halfway up, and then you realize like, oh, this is hard. But no, for the most part, like hiking on the top of the peak went really smooth for me. I got up there. I was the only person there. I stayed there 30 minutes at least, maybe more. And it was just me and the spiders up there. There's some big old spiders. But no, it was incredible. I loved it. The views were just fantastic. So cool to be up that high and just be looking down at all these other massive mountains. Like it's a weird experience to be like, usually when you're standing on a 12,000 foot peak, you're like standing on the tallest peak around. So it's weird to be on a 14,000 foot peak, be looking down at 13 and 12,000 foot peaks and just realize like you're looking down at them, right? It's like a weird experience, but just incredible. That went like perfect in my mind. The whole time I was up there, I was like looking down at the trail, like way below me for 3 dudes hiking. And I swear I saw them, but I never was fully sure, but because it was a long ways off. And then for me, after I was like, okay, I'm going to be behind him. I better hustle. So then I turn around and go off the backside of that peak. And holy smokes, it was steep. Great trail. It was a really well-maintained trail, but really steep. To my knowledge, it's the first time that I've ever like taken a sip of my water out of my water bottle, put it back in my pack, hiked for 15 minutes, grabbed my water bottle again, and it was like dimpled and shrunk from losing that much elevation that fast. Like, has that happened to me before? Yes, but not in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like was the point. Like it was just so steep of a drop off, and I was hustling. I was really moving fast because in my head, I was going to be behind you guys. That maybe I climbed the peak too slow, or that I spent too much time at the top of the peak. So I'm like, I don't want these guys to be waiting on me. So yeah, I was moving to get off of there. But did the big drop, and then it's like like a 10-mile pull just down this long canyon with nothing but beaver pond after beaver pond after beaver pond. I've never seen, I mean, this has got to be like where they go to study beavers, because it's just like, it was nothing but beaver ponds for like 7+ miles. But yeah, it was really good. Didn't really get any rain, any weather. It was cool when I was sitting on the 14er to watch clouds go by. Man, they were like insanely fast and insanely close, which I really enjoyed watching. But I eventually got down to where I would cross the trail and these guys weren't there. So I was like, okay. So I sat down, ate my lunch, and like late lunch. It was like 2 p.m. or something. And then I put my feet up and tried to take a snooze. And after, I don't know, 30 minutes or so, a guy walked by and I was like, hey, is there, I think there's some guys maybe looking for you. Were you hiking with some other guys? I'm like, oh yeah. And he's like, I was like, yeah, there should be 3 of them. And he's like, oh, no, there's just 2 of them. I was like, what? Like, yeah, there's just 2 of them. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, maybe one of them just hiking behind the rest of them, or maybe they hiked in front of Craig or something. And anyways, well, it was probably 5-10 minutes later, you guys show up, and I'm like, where's Craig? Where was Craig, by the way?
Yeah. Well, so we got up just like the plan a little bit later. Like I was probably only like 30-40 minutes later than you, Tayson, when we were actually starting to kind of get up and pack up tents and stuff. But immediately, the first thing Craig says to me when I pop out of my tent is like, dude, I'm not feeling good. I'm like, well, that's not a good thing to hear first thing in the morning. But his ankle, I guess, felt way worse when he woke up. And he was still wanting to try and see how it felt once he like warmed up a little bit and was like walking on it and to see if that loosened things up, any muscles or whatever, and made it a little more bearable. But we packed up and we were carrying a little bit of his camera gear, not much. And he walked about 50 yards with us down the trail and then said, nope, this isn't going to happen, fellas. And he decided he was going to turn around, hike about 15 miles back that we'd done the day before to the Highway 114 and catch a ride down into Lake City. So that's what he did. So he wanted his camera gear back. He said, I'm going to take my time. Basically he was going to have to wait for us in Lake City until Saturday anyways. And this is Tuesday, or no, at this point it was Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
So he said, yeah, I'll take my time, go slow, take it easy, kind of baby his ankle. And that was kind of his plan. Just had to go 15 miles to that trailhead where the highway crosses the trail. And so we said, okay. And also we'd found out that the Garmin InReach that I'd been packing, the plan on that had been deactivated. So, and I didn't check it before we left.
Always test your Garmin devices before you leave home.
So I did have a Garmin device. Could I use it? No, not even a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I had no way of contacting Tayson or Craig. So I told him, hey, you've already swapped contact information with Tayson. Message him, tell him what's going on, send a message to his InReach. And then we split ways. Caden and I started up this big, massive pass that we'd had to do first thing. And I don't know, I really enjoyed that first 3/4 of that day, I don't know about you, Caden, but that was awesome. I mean, I loved seeing those passes in the morning. It was still early enough that the sun was still just rising a little bit, or it was still pretty low. And then the weather seemed really, really good and just had a lot of fun going up to where you turn off to go up that peak. And at that point, we had like 10 miles of just downhill from there. Mm-hmm. And that was nice, just really easy. And we were cruising pretty fast. So yeah, I enjoyed it. When we got to where the trails merge, where Tayson was sitting there taking a little siesta, it was about, I think, 3 in the afternoon, 2:45 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So up until that point, I think we started hiking around 6.
We had like 16 miles down or something by the time we met up.
Yeah. We had 16 miles down for the day at that point. And at one point, Caden and I, we were a little bit concerned for you, Tayson, because there had been a little miscommunication the night before, it turns out. See, Tayson had said, oh yeah, it's like less miles if you do the peak, actually. Just more elevation, which was true with where he went. But we didn't understand that you were going along that wash the whole way. You see, if you go up to the San Luis Peak, you come down the other side, then there's a trail that like tees into the Colorado Trail way sooner. Mm-hmm. You just have to
mile
come at mile
the day.
8. So mile 8 for us.
So you just loop right off that basin and down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like, when we looked at that on the map, because I had far out on my phone, I didn't, I still had maps and stuff downloaded. I'm like, I don't know what Tayson was smoking. He's doing way more miles than us coming down here. But, and somebody had said something about mile 8
Mhm.
or 8 miles to this or that, right? And it was exactly 8 miles for us
Mhm.
where that trail teed in. And so we were like really confused. Where's Tayson? Should we wait here? And ultimately, after I think 20 minutes, we decided.
Oh, you guys actually stopped for 20 minutes, huh?
We were kind of walking back and forth,
walked
trying to
back
see
and
if there
forth
was
'cause
another
we're like,
trail or like.
Is there another trail that
Because
tees
it
in
was kind
around
of a
here?
small trail
It
that
was
came into it. Like it
not
was very
really-
clear, but it wasn't marked really.
It
Wait,
wasn't
was
well
there
used.
was there a trail on the map?
It was a trail on the
Mhm.
map and it had a big post next to it.
Yeah, it was like a cutout. I think it was a cutout trail.
Cut off trail.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so
Yeah.
we kind of just ended up after 20 minutes of walking back and forth, like, oh, is there another trail or did we miss it or something? We decided to put some rocks down, spell out OV, put an arrow.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know how he's going to misunderstand this. Said we kept going.
Mhm.
There it is, the Stewart Creek cutoff trail.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we left a little note for you there, and you were rude enough to not read it, but that's okay. We still found you anyways.
Yeah. So I think for me, the second and third day were interesting because I think for me, the second day was kind of like one of those. It's like when you build a really bad paper airplane and you throw it and it goes up and it kind of levels out for a sec and then it just plummets. And so it was like, it was a great day. And then
Talk about day 2 with Craig.
yeah,
Okay.
it was like we were going along for a while, and I just like Derek. I really like it when we got some weather because it just is prettier. It's more cool. And we were waiting for a while, and I was like feeling on top of the world. Everything was pretty, and then when we saw Craig was injured, I think that's when everything started to go downhill because we knew that at the end of the day we were going to have that really huge climb. Not the one after the Stairmaster.
Caden was geared up to do that huge climb that we started Wednesday morning with, and he was gearing himself up all afternoon Tuesday. We were hiking together, and he was ready to do that. He was like, I want to get this over with, essentially.
Yeah, and like I'm fine to do a climb, but I'm a huge momentum guy, and so I think once Craig's ankle was hurt, that kind of started to set the tone for me of like, oh shoot, this isn't good. And then the storm started, and so it got worse and worse. And so I didn't want to circle back on it too much, but I think the end of the second day was my low point because we got there and I was really cold and
His feet were soaked.
we were camping at the base of this huge mountain that we had to climb the next morning. And I was just like, this is not great, and I was enjoying it up to that point. It was all good, but that was kind of a low point. But then, so I was kind of debating back and forth whether or not to do the 14er with Tayson. And I was like, I'm going to be tired anyway. I'll just go with everybody else. And I woke up when you did, or when you were setting things up, and I was like, should I just get out and do it? And I slept in instead. But the third day was really, I think I woke up and was really recharged and did that climb. And just like Derek was saying, it was just super, super beautiful getting up over that saddle. And one thing that you guys didn't mention though is that it started pouring for like raining pretty good for a good chunk of the third day. So we were pretty soaked at least we were for a while, just like walking through all those.
Oh, before we met up with Tayson. Yeah, on the downhill, it started raining for a while. But
Which wasn't a problem. Like it was all downhill. It was super pretty, but we definitely got really wet.
yeah, the first 5 miles of Wednesday, though, we were having fun. I was. I think you're having a good time. We're hiking.
Yeah, for sure.
But Caden was like, man, he was feeling way better after sleeping. After hiking a couple miles, his shoes and feet were dry. They were fine, comfortable.
Mhm.
So he was feeling good. He's like, maybe I should have just gotten up and hiked that peak. And then
Yes, you should have.
after we got actually close to the peak, he's like, no. Like I'm glad I didn't do that.
Yeah. Well, especially the next couple of days when Tayson was like, man, my what was it?
My knees or
It was a specific muscle you kept talking about.
my tibs.
Your
My
tibs.
shin muscle. My tibs.
My toasted tibs is what you
I
kept saying.
toasted my tibs that day.
Going on
We're
that
gonna get to
downhill.
that.
That's afterward. I was just like, yeah, I don't regret it. It would have been cool, but like, I'm glad my tibs aren't toasted.
And me, I like peaks, but this whole time, even from since Tuesday, I'd been kind of indifferent on the peak, and I was at the point like, if I really don't care, I don't think I want to put in the effort to go do it. Like I've been on a lot of peaks, so
it feels daunting, to be doing 25 miles a day, and then to go, and I'm going to do an extra thing,
Definitely an extra 1,200 feet.
Even me, it was like, I really don't want to do this, but I can't not do it. Like, to me, it was just like, I really went back to the, like, is the pain of regret going to be worse than the pain of doing the peak? And I thought it was. I thought I would regret it more if I didn't do the peak. So that was like my fuel. But yeah, it was like, it's not easy to be like, okay, I got to hike 25 miles tomorrow, and I'm just going to tack on another, I don't know what it was, 1,000 or 1,500
just 1,200,
or something like that, on top of that already full long day. So, yeah, I don't blame these guys for not doing it, but you did miss out, so. But no, I mean, to what Caden was saying, though, by the time I got to the bottom, because I had rushed, I dropped all that elevation, then I rushed down that canyon, 7 miles, all still downhill. When I got to that little rest area, I was like, I might have overdone that. I might have gone a little too hard and a little too fast on the downhill. And because I could feel it in my legs, and I've had a lot of experience specifically with the Grand Canyon and some stuff where I've just done a ton of downhill and it's just wrecked me. And I was feeling some of those signs, and so I was nervous about that. But anyways, we met up, and then we started down this next big draw. And
lots more beaver ponds.
Ponds.
That
We'd
was
have
so
to
cool.
cross the river at one point. Caden almost made it without getting his feet wet, but it looked a little too risky. So
I'm a long jumper.
Derek just walked through. Yeah. Lots of really cool beaver ponds. One of the cool things that stood out that day is I started to see these game trails that would come straight down the side of the mountain. And I'm like, I don't ever see game trails that kind of do that. And then I started to realize, these game trails go right down to these ponds. I'm like, I can't imagine that they need water that bad that they're doing this beeline straight down these steep side hills straight to the pond.
And like 5 feet apart, some of these trails.
Yeah, and then I'm like, wait a second. Now there's multiple of these things beaten in, like only a few feet apart. And I was like, oh my gosh, these are where beaver are dragging trees down to these ponds, because there was just so many beaver ponds. It was really cool. I actually would love to go back there and like fly fish in these beaver ponds. I think it'd be beautiful and a lot of fun. But
well, some places we were up on a hill and you could see the fish in the pond.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool.
Yep. Yeah, really, really cool. But this is also, we cannot forget about this. We stopped for dinner, and we found out that Derek had lost his spoon. Lo and behold,
again,
this is not a first occurrence. He has lost his spoon.
In my defense, Tyler lost my spoon on one of our other big trips. It wasn't me.
Okay, that is mostly true. On a fast packing trip we did years ago, Tyler lost his spoon. So then Tyler and Derek were not only sharing a tent, but also a spoon at this point. And and the spoon got lost. So on like the last night. So I think that they didn't necessarily need the spoon the next day or something. But anyway, so Derek had lost 2 spoons now while backpacking. And so when he lost this spoon, I gave him some heck for a while, but borrowed him my knife. He made some chopsticks, and he literally ate with chopsticks for like
couple days.
Few days,
yeah.
1.2
and I kept joking with him, like, dude, you're gonna. We didn't talk about this either. The first time he lost his spoon, it was relocated in the bottom of Tyler's top quilt.
I don't really want to know how it got there, so I didn't ask.
Because they were sharing this spoon, and somehow this spoon gets in the bottom of his of Tyler's top quilt.
I think I should have just told him he could keep it. The trip was over at that point.
So I'm just gonna leave this to your guys' imaginations. And anyway, so I was joking with him, like, well, did you check your top quilt? And did you, like, I'm sure you've got your spoon somewhere there. You just got to find where you put this thing, And
so up until that point, I'd been keeping my spoon in the outer mesh pocket of my backpack, so I could just grab it really easy. And I didn't really care if it was getting washed by the rain for me or anything through that mesh. And that's where it was. And I also stuffed like my rain jackets in there. And so I thought, oh, dang, like when we met up with Tace and it was raining pretty good, maybe I whipped out my rain jacket. I wore my rain jacket for most of the day, but also when we met up, I started wearing rain pants as well because the rain got a little bit worse after we met Tayson. So I'm like, maybe when I whipped out my rain pants out of this big mesh pocket, maybe it slid the spoon out and I didn't notice. So I thought it was just gone miles back, and I wasn't gonna go back for it, like 10 miles for it. So
we let him eat with chopsticks for a little while, and I'm gonna skip ahead to this part of the story because 2 days later,
yeah, it's like 2 or 3 days later. Yeah,
I just hear. I don't even remember, what did I hear? Just you let out some kind of exclamation of surprise or excitement or something, and I was like, what happened, Derek? What did happen?
I found my spoon still in that mesh pocket where I'd been putting it the whole time. I think when I'd been looking for it on Wednesday night for dinner, I guess it must have got like shoved underneath some fold of the backpack or my rain gear maybe. And I thought I'd like put my hand all in there and checked everywhere for it in that pocket, and I'd missed it. So yeah, for a couple of days I've been using my chopsticks.
The 1.3
the spoon
star
had been
rating.
there. Oh yeah, Caden asked me what I would rate my chopsticks after I ate my dinner with
like
them.
1 to 10.
They were not good. They were.
You rated them a 1 star. You had a 1 star experience.
Where we ate dinner, there wasn't really great like greenery around to make chopsticks from. It was like these scraggly, not very straight, not very sturdy bushes. So they're really flimsy, really skinny chopsticks. So yeah, definitely like a 1.3 star rating.
Yeah. So to recap, Derek lost the spoon for 2 days, and it was relocated in the exact spot he put it to begin with. I swear to you, I did not take his spoon and re-put it in the same pocket. But the bigger part of this is we were all using our new Shadowlight backpack that's going to be released this September. And there's so much storage in this sub 2 pound backpack that you can lose things. So just be aware.
Yeah, that's maybe not the best spoon pocket.
or it is. That's where I keep my spoon. I never lost it. So
yeah, I don't know.
But lots of storage in that pack. But we'll circle back to gear. Anyway, so we finished that day. Things were going well. I will say that all of us, I think, after hiking in the rain and also crossing the river, I think a few of us started to get some blisters or sore feet or tender feet by the end of that day. I know I did develop a blister. Now, I don't know if I chalk that up to the Hoka Speed Goats I was hiking in. The newest version has not been my most favorite version of them, but I actually think it was probably just more of my lack of doing as much training. My feet weren't as calloused up, but and I was using some older socks, and I put a hole in my socks. They were clearly done, and I was still taking them out on another 100 miles that I shouldn't have. I actually developed some blisters. Ended up taping those up with Leuco tape, and that tape held for the rest of the trip just fine, and I was fine the rest of the trip. But yeah, I finished that day with tender feet and some knees that I was worried about because I had overworked my tibs on the downhill, which I know for me, when I do that, it develops into some knee pain. So I was a little bit nervous about those things, but overall, good day.
Yeah.
Great day. I loved that day.
It was really good.
So then we're starting off on Thursday, and we don't get too far out of camp before we pass some people that are like, oh man, there's some trail magic up ahead. You guys are going to love it. They've got everything. And they pass, and Caden's over here like, wait, there's magic ahead? Like a wizard? Or what?
Like, what's trail magic?
he hadn't yet heard of trail magic.
Just some old guy passing out like weed or something.
So for those of you that don't know, trail magic is, when people basically come back onto the trail and do acts of kindness or service for people. And those are typically called trail angels. And so these trail angels come back and a lot of times it's, giving food. Sometimes it's, passing out other things. Sometimes it's shuttling people into town. They'll kind of get labeled as trail angels that are just helping people on the trail. Anyway, so we ended up hiking up there, and yeah, it was incredible. This guy had a sun canopy set up, and it was just packed full of drinks and food of all varieties, whether it's peanut butter jelly, like Uncrustables, chips, pickles.
We just been talking about a
tons of
bag of
stuff.
chips that night before. So
We're talking about what we would trade for a bag of chips at one of these campers we were hiking by.
So that the Thursday morning, we actually had quite a few sections of just like roads that, the trail was going through roads before it turned back into trail again for a number of miles. And so we knew that we'd be passing some RVs, and we're like, oh, maybe we just go knock on one of these doors and say, see what we can trade for a bag of chips. And this guy was just giving away chips. So it worked out great.
He was a nice guy.
Super nice guy, an OVM customer. So it was cool to just talk with him. I actually, so do you guys remember his name? I locked it in my memory to come back and try to find him in our customer database because I knew his first name and where he lived, and I was going to send him something, and I couldn't find him. And so if you're listening, and I'll recognize your name the second I see it again, and I'm just pulling a blank right now. But if you write into customer support and just let them know you're that guy, I would love to send you something just to say thanks. But yeah, it was really, really cool. So we all grabbed a drink, grabbed some food, sat there for a little while, and then essentially he kind of informed us, because we hadn't looked ahead too much, that we were going to start off on a very long, flat, roaded section of the Colorado Trail with not much water. No water for a big push of it.
Yeah.
And that summarizes the day.
Lots of roads, not a lot of water to filter. But we didn't really drink. I don't know. We didn't drink nearly as much water because the roads are roads. They're not steep. They're not crazy.
Yeah.
They're
just
the
kind of
climbs
cruise.
were easy. The climbs they were very long, but they weren't steep and exhausting. You weren't hiking on a technical trail, so you could really just kind of unplug your brain and just move. So we carried a really good speed the whole day.
Saw some rabbits that weren't afraid of us at all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just huge eyes, and they were just chilling.
Yeah, that's right. Tried to get Caden to catch one.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do that hike, and then we hear, as we're like 10 miles from him, oh, there's another group doing trail magic up ahead, and we're like, no way, two trail magics a day, and they're like, oh yeah, but they're actually working on the Colorado Trail. They're the volunteer crew that helps maintain the Colorado Trail. And if you just go to their camp or their tent there, they'll give you whatever you want food wise. And we're like, no way. Like we're getting spoiled in a day. Anyways, but sure enough, we hike up there, and the Colorado Trail Association was there, and they were working on a section of trail, and they eat well. If there's one thing to know, if you go volunteer to go work on the Colorado Trail, they feed you well. That night they were making pizzas for the trail crew, and yeah, it was just really cool. I mean, we didn't get pizzas, but they literally were making like snacks for us. So we had like
fresh
cheese
snacks.
And crackers, and we had like a bread with avocado and cheese or something on it.
Avocado
Had like
and
a cream
tomato
cheese
and-
spread kind of thing.
cream
It was
cheese.
so good. It was so
Like a big cooler
Freaking
full of like whatever drink.
Like
You want a Mountain Dew, you want a Coke, whatever. Just
yeah.
So good.
Yeah, and it was cool to just kind of get to know the camp there and their life. We had another lady there that was a customer, and I talked to her for quite a while. And just, I had a lot of questions, about camp and what it was like. And it was just cool to kind of learn firsthand, like how many volunteers. She was introducing me to people that had been, one lady she introduced me to had been volunteering for the Colorado Trail and working on trails since 1990. I was like, that's like as long as I've been alive, lady. That's incredible, So yeah, it was really such a cool atmosphere. There's also a kid that was there. His dad works with the Colorado Trail, and we kind of followed him up to the camp there. And that kid was really close to finishing the entire Colorado Trail. And I want to say he was either 11 or 13. So just an incredible feat, but
yeah,
really inspiring. I think it's so cool to see that kind of stuff and just see, it takes the right kid to latch on to stuff like that. I don't think every kid just has that drive or has that ability. As a parent, you're always trying to like encourage them to have those kinds of things, but it's really cool that he was into it enough to hike that much with his dad. So really cool to see that. But man, huge shout out to the CT crew there, and just thanks again for I mean, I think I smashed a couple sodas and just they were hitting the spot. It was just
much appreciated. Yeah,
it was so
amazing.
good.
But
I had to kept telling Caden that this wasn't reality and to not get used to it. Though.
Yeah, we had to drag these guys out of there a little bit because we spent a good amount of time with the first Trail Angel, and we're chatting it up and enjoying that, and then we hiked some more and got to this, the Colorado Trail Association tent, and we hung out there for quite a while also, and so we had a little bit of a hard time dragging ourselves out because we're like, well, we still got a bunch of miles to do tonight, and anyways, got out of there and got a hike on their brand new trail a couple miles out of camp and kept going.
Yeah,
it was nice though. It was a good push.
It was. Yeah, it was a nice evening. Tayson mentioned on Wednesday, a couple of us, me especially, me and Tayson, I think we probably complained about it the most, but we really were having tender feet, and by the end of Thursday, my tender feet had come back full force. What I found is after Wednesday, I'd go for half a day after sleeping and being off my feet, feeling totally fine. And then throughout the afternoon and into the evening, they just gradually get worse and worse and worse in terms of like how painful it would be to take a step. Muscle-wise, fitness-wise, I don't think I was having any problems. Fueling, had plenty. It was just every step was feeling painful on the bottoms of my feet because they were just tender. I think maybe I shouldn't have used the shoes that I had. I actually have had those for 2 years, but I'm like, I didn't go on the 100-mile trip last summer. They probably still got another 100-miler in there. But I did, in fact.
So they're like 3-year-old shoes?
Yeah, but like I'm like, I've only been like training in these for a couple of years. And, and this year especially, I've been training less. So I'm like, they probably have enough miles left in them. But in retrospect, I think that the padding on them probably was a big part of what did me dirty there with tender feet throughout the rest of the week.
And we talked about this too, that I think, because like my feet got more and more tender as it went along, and I had like a different pair of shoes that I almost brought that just are like more padded, like bigger padding. And I was like, but they're a little bit more heavy. It's just not worth it. In hindsight, I kind of think it might be worth it. Like, I'm not saying bring a heavy pair of shoes. These are still a very lightweight pair of shoes, but if that's like where the most discomfort's coming from, like,
just bring the padding.
Yeah. I mean, especially for you, Derek, it wasn't like you were struggling to keep up mileage. It's like you just, by the next day, we were giving him like a little bit of a bubble of like, it was affecting all of you as far as like the discomfort then shreds into like how you feel about being there at that time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, like, I don't really want to be here anymore. This isn't fun anymore. Like, cause it does. As soon as you start to have pain and consistent pain, it's very easy to be like, to get in your own head and be like, okay, I don't want to be here anymore. Yeah. Or this is just painful. And then, or every step you're just reminded like, this is painful. This is painful. This is painful.
Friday morning was, Caden mentioned Tuesday night being his low point of the trip. Friday morning was my low point of the trip. That was definitely like mentally what Tayson's talking about, where I was the lowest mentally because of the just tender feet, which sounds like a silly thing right now when we're talking about it, but then like it was a big deal for me, and it was really bringing down my morale and just not fun. I mean, taking a step isn't fun, So Friday
there was
morning
a section too. I think it was Friday morning, right, where it was just
really
so
hot.
much rocks.
Yeah, everything was rocks.
Everything was a rock,
and the sun was out like, full force.
The sun was doing that. What I mentioned before is doing that. Like, hey, it's going to rain later to get extra humid and sunny kind of a thing. So it was kind of hot and everything was rocky. And I'm like, why are we here?
Yeah, we got to stop in. And I told Derek, I said, my cowboy old grandpa used to tell me that if you take off your boots and put them up above your heart, that it really helps reset your feet and take like pain out of them. So we took probably like a little 10-minute lay down, and we just all put our feet up and laid on the ground on our little mats. And it actually helped. I don't really know the science of anatomy and how everything works, but I imagine the blood coming out of my feet a little bit
helped. They didn't, for sure what I know is they didn't hurt so bad after we did that. And so I made sure every break after that to try to put my feet up. And that way it kind of prolonged the worst of the pain, from coming on. Because like I mentioned, after I slept, like first thing in the morning, I felt super great. I don't really have problems with sore muscles. I'm not really feeling fatigued. Otherwise, I feel great. It was just my feet that really were bothering me. And so around noon is when I turned around things on that Friday. Low point, most Friday morning. But around noon, that's when things kind of switched for me. And I, after really applying that, raise your feet up trick enough times, I'm like, okay, this is doable. This is going to be enjoyable. We're in some really cool places. And I was able to enjoy the rest of Friday a lot. I really did have a good time the rest of Friday, but I do not dispute my attitude was trash. My attitude was trash Friday for sure. Friday morning.
Friday though was what's crazy is when you really just stop and think about how far we hike in a single day. Like, cause I'm thinking about like that Friday, like where we started, like all the different terrain we went through that day. Man, you cover a long distance over just a sun up to sundown hike, which is exactly what we were doing, and the second half of that day, like we just could not have had better weather on this entire trip. We started to get some like drizzling rain on us, but it was like so little that it almost wasn't even worth putting a rain jacket on. Some of us kind of did, and then you wouldn't, then you put it on.
Yeah.
Like, because it was so little rain, but what that really meant is that it like was keeping the temperatures just really cool and the views were just really pretty, and all in all, like just a beautiful, beautiful hike. We did have a climb right at the end of the day. I would say that one sucked, just because it was like the sun was like kind of pounding on us, and it was like that high humidity after rain effect too, like hiking in a greenhouse kind of feel. That was a little bit hot, but thankfully it was not like, it was like 1,000 foot or something climb, nothing too crazy.
It was a big climb, but I definitely still didn't mind it too much compared to even that morning when honestly we were going downhill a lot of Friday morning, not all of it, but I enjoyed the climb still more than that.
Yeah. But we also got like a variety of terrain. The second half of that day, we were hiking kind of through some dispersed trees and ponderosas, right? Wasn't there?
Yeah, there's a big ponderosa forest that for a big section.
Lots of aspens, added aspens. So it was really pretty to kind of drop through some of that vegetation. Anyways, good.
I think I appreciated that as well because, I think we all kind of split up at that point. Like we had lunch and then we all left at different paces from lunch, I think, it was a water filter. And so, I don't know, it was with the light drizzle and how beautiful the nature was. We saw some deer that were really calm around us. And just for the next couple of hours, I just remember that was one of my high points because it was super pretty country. It wasn't like High Peak's most beautiful thing that we had seen up to that point, but just super pretty. And I just remember really just feeling this nice peace as it was just this light drizzle, really good colors everywhere. And I was just able to kind of be by myself and just be in my own head in a way that was in a very healthy way, kind of able to self-reflect and just really take in the nature and not be focused on miles, even though we were keeping up a good pace. And so I really appreciated that part. That was super, super cool.
Yeah, I did kind of the same thing actually when I was, in that same section doing my own thing. Yeah, it was great. Really healthy mentality, I think. And then enjoying and staring contests with the deer that didn't really mind that I was 10 feet away from them. And they were like 10 feet off the trail. We were just kind of like, oh, hey, what's up? And then kept going, and just hanging out. It was good. Oh, also, I guess I'd turned on an audiobook and at some points during that, which was fun too. I think, well, I don't know. I think I had the limited books actually downloaded. I hadn't really planned it out. I had Silmarillion, which is a J.R.R. Tolkien. It's a Lord of the Rings book. Some more backstory, I guess, about Middle Earth or something. So I gave that a try. Couldn't stick it out. So I had another book on there on my phone that I had downloaded at some point. It was the Return of the King and stuff. And so that one actually happened to be about, a lot of that book is about Frodo and Sam hiking around anyways. And okay, I'll listen to this again.
It's fitting. I remember
But it's just
Tayson-
fun. Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, well, Tayson had his book going, and then every once in a while I'd hear it. He had it just loud enough that he could hear it, just quiet enough that we couldn't. But every once in a while I would hear it, and I'd be like, where are those voices coming from?
He really was going at one point before I explained it or something like that. You're like, oh, that makes way more sense.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I'll just note about that day is, man, we didn't even talk about this, but man, the wildflowers were
Oh, yeah.
off. They were
Gorgeous.
just so impressive. And, we stopped at a spring and the hillside was just covered in them. But from day one on, just incredible views of wildflowers. Just
Mm-hmm.
every color you can think of, from like neon pinks and oranges to bright yellows and deep purples and really deep like reds, I don't know if mahogany is the right word, but like just incredible colors. So loved seeing that. And then at the end of that day, we set up our camp kind of where we kind of had a view, and there was a fire kind of off in the distance, and it was like one of the coolest sunsets I've ever seen, because there was just these shades of mountains farther and farther and farther away. And the last one, you couldn't tell if it was like a cloud or a mountain. And
it was
really
a cloud.
Incredible. Yeah, we debated it a little bit to see. It was a cloud, but I thought it was a mountain when I first looked, essentially, because it just looked.
He almost tried fighting with me about it for a little while. I'm like, nah, that's just a cloud.
I just had to look a little closer, all right? But the first glance was that it was because we asked you because we weren't sure. So I wasn't fighting it.
Okay.
It was more like, hey, is that last one a mountain or a cloud? Hey, Derek, what do you think?
You asked me, and then you told me I was wrong when I gave you my answer.
That was the last night, right?
Yeah, that was Friday night. Yeah.
Also when I destroyed my trekking pole.
We're just hiking along, and all of a sudden I look back, and Caden's like, dang it. And like his trekking pole grip had like disintegrated. Just
split in half. Yeah,
split in half.
It was like a cork one, and he hit it on the ground, and it just.
Yeah, we got to camp, and I was trying to put him into the ground so I could set up my tent, and it just zunk. Oh, dang.
Broken half.
Well, that's too bad.
Grip
He was
came
pretty
right
torn
off.
up about it. We had to console him a little bit. But the world wasn't ending, and then he'd be all right. But
Oh, yeah, for sure.
yeah. Then we were on the last day, and just like any last day, I called this from day one, and that was that while Derek was hiking in the back of the group most of Friday, come Saturday, the last day, he would be hard to keep up with, and that proved to be very accurate.
Friday was my low day.
Saturday, last day, he takes off like a freaking.
Saturday was not my low day. I was just fine.
Yep, he had new energy. That day was again really pretty, more of the same, just high country, intermittent, hiking through trees and openings. The biggest thing for me on that day was just that it still was 16 miles.
Yeah,
Something,
at
yeah.
least.
Yep.
Yeah.
And obviously we're trying to finish it as early as we can, because now we've got to go pick up Craig in Lake City. That's an extra 2 hours worth of driving. And we've also got to drive up to Grand Junction, because two of the guys are going to fly out of Grand Junction, different places. So we're going to spend the night in Grand. Anyway, so you're trying to get off trail at a decent enough time to like
do all this,
do all the driving, have dinner, and get to the hotel at a decent time. So we wanted to obviously get off trail as early as you can, but I wasn't, you're never really sure what that means until Derek gets in the lead, and then you find out. So, but my biggest thing that day was, like I mentioned, ever since I did the day with the 14er, I had, as Caden likes to say, I had toasted my tibs. They were pretty dang sore, and that translates into knee pain and stuff. And so we had like a lot of downhill, like 3,000+ feet of downhill, just all at once. And I was definitely feeling that. So that's really where I felt like Derek got ahead of us. Caden was walking with me, and I just couldn't really like push that because I was just having a lot of pain in my low legs. So, so yeah, be aware of that, I guess. But other than that, it was smooth sailing that day. Watched a guy wreck on a bike pretty hard. That was kind of interesting. His axle came out of his back tire, and so his back tire basically wedged up behind his seat and locked up, and then he, tumbled off, and so we tried to help him a little bit. But something you forget about when you're on these hikes is just how bad you smell. And we kept thinking that we were going to hit a smell plateau, right? Like this situation where you couldn't smell any worse, right?
Yeah.
And we'd never hit it. It just got worse.
Yeah,
every day.
You get in your sleeping bag at night and you're like, it's too hot to have the neck baffle up, but I'm going to have the neck baffle up so I don't have to smell myself.
Yeah, so I was helping the guy on the bike, like just helping him. And then I like caught a whiff of myself and I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be this close to this guy helping him with his bike. Maybe I should put my arms to my side and kind of I'm like, this guy thinks I'm straight up homeless.
Oh man.
It was smelly nonetheless. Yeah. But we finished the hike. Oh, I was gonna say, like Derek said, day one, man, a world of infinite conversations. Day 6, you're scraping for some stuff, and so we had some funny debates about, like what wins in a fight out of like a tiger, a grizzly bear, and a gorilla. Mm-hmm. It was stuff to kill the time for sure, but it was good. And if you didn't know, ask ChatGPT. I think it's accurate.
We looked it up, with ChatGPT afterwards, and there was an answer.
Yep.
I think the biggest thing that kept striking us about the last day, as I was just thinking about it, is that I mean, I don't know. We talked about this on the trail, but Tayson and I were kind of hanging behind, and we were keeping up a good pace, but it just kind of felt like I would think, starting the hike, I was thinking that I would finish and just be so ready to be done and get off the trail and be ready to go. And I'm normally like, don't worry, I'm not really a pessimist. It was just, that's what I was thinking it was going to happen because it's a lot of miles. And I just remember getting done, or even just on the last day or the last couple of days, just really, really taking in the nature. And I was ready to be done, but I wasn't ecstatic to be done. It was just kind of like this nice resolve, Sam and Frodo going back to the Shire kind of a thing. I don't know. I just remember especially the last day, like we were keeping up a good pace, but I just was really taking it in and was like, wow, it's awesome being back here. And I'm glad that, like, I'm satisfied that we're finishing, but I'm not like chomping on the bit because this just feels great,
Yeah. For all of us, I think it was kind of first going into 6 days of hiking. And so it's, and like when we've done like other 100-mile hikes, it's like, you feel like when you finish that trail, you couldn't go another 10 miles. You know what I mean? Like you just feel totally spent. Like you left it all out there. You're just completely done mentally, physically, emotionally. Yeah. And so Caden, first off, I just gotta say, Caden crushed this hike. Like he listened, he followed, all the things that we told him, to do, packing wise, execution wise, just really good student. We've taken people out that are just not good students, essentially. Like they listen, but then they kind of want to do it their way. And look, like we've learned how to do this over years and years of doing this. And so you crushed it.
Thank you.
But I'm going to take a small amount of credit here about one thing. I did try to prepare you for the last day. Do you remember that?
I can't remember. You'll have to refresh me.
Yeah. And my theory here is that this is what I was doing. So I was just sharing it with Caden, whether you took it or not. Was just that whenever you say you're done, you completely gear up and mentally check out for that. So if you say, I'm done at the end of day 5, you're done at the end of day 5, you'll mentally check out and you won't want to take another step. Mm-hmm. Versus if you say, or if like you wake up on day 6 and it's like, hey, we were going to be done by the morning. If it goes any longer than the morning, you will be very frustrated and tired and upset about that. Mm-hmm. And so I think I just said, you know what, plan on this taking us all day on Saturday. And if you plan for it to be all day Saturday, when we finish at noon, you're going to be so much more happy with that type of thing. And that's what I was doing internally. And I think it worked out really well because just like Caden, I think I stayed in a better mental spot on this hike. I don't remember having a downtime or like a low point, or like it was just so even keel. And I didn't feel like when I got off the trail, I think this was the biggest takeaway is when we were getting off the trail, if you had said, hey, we're going to do another day, I probably would have been like, all right. Like I felt like that was a big win because most of the other times when I'm getting off trail, I cannot wait to get off the trail. Like I'm either spent or I'm like dying to get some really good food or something. Right. But I left the trail not feeling that. And I think that was half mental and half just experience and stuff of executing hikes in a way that is more sustainable maybe in some ways. Now, I don't think the mileage was that sustainable. I decided at the end of this that I will not recommend anyone do 25-mile days. I just don't think it's worth it. I think 20-mile days is the sweet spot for long hikes.
Yeah, I mean, after doing 100, it ended up being like 140 miles about. After doing that and doing the 25 miles every day, you kind of look back at some of our other hikes we've done that have been 20 miles days, and I'm like, that's so much easier, like more enjoyable in a way because you're just not so rushed. If that's all and 20-mile days is the most you've done, it's going to feel big. I'm not saying it's not a lot of miles because it is, but it's definitely so much nicer in the terms of giving you flexibility, more time to do this or that than 25 miles a day. It actually is a pretty big difference.
It gets exponentially harder every mile, right? Like the first mile of every day compared to mile 24, 25 of a day, there's obviously a massive difference in the amount of effort and how your headspace is and everything, right? So every mile that you go farther gets exponentially harder. And so when you think about doing 20 miles a day versus 25, that's like an extra 2 hours a day that we could have been resting, stopping, relaxing in camp. And 2 hours is a long time when you're doing a 25-mile day and you don't stop for 2 hours period during the day, like combined, So like that'd be like doubling all of our downtime to go from 20 to 20, from 25 down to 20.
Down to 20.
Yeah, I think that was just a big thing for me is I like pushing myself. I do, but I think that is better done in isolation. Meaning if you want to push yourself, go run an ultra or go set up a DIY challenge for yourself, go cross the Grand Canyon, do something like that. But in these type of hikes and conditions, I think it's just more enjoyable to try not to do much more than 20-mile days. So next year, my goal is to outline the trip to do 20-mile days. And if we have to go back and do some kind of a fifth year to complete the Colorado Trail, just going to do it that way, I think, because I would much rather just slow it down a little bit. It was very fast paced. And, it just really feels like you can't, basically, I remember when I've interviewed people that have done FKTs, and by no means are we doing FKT pace here. No. I'm just saying, when you talk to them, one of the things that stood out to me, I think it was Joshua Perry might have said it to me, that it's like you don't actually time your mind, like the amount of time you're moving, you track the amount of time you're stopping. And he's like, because basically I know I have to moving all day, all the time. So really all you care about is limiting the amount of times you have to stop all day. And so and anyways, the way that he said that really stuck with me. And that's kind of how it felt when you're doing 25-mile days is like, anytime you stop, you feel like this timer starts to be like, oh, well, we can't sit here for 30 minutes, but, so let's try to be out of here in like 5 or 10, and just like, there's kind of this little bit of rush that, look, if that's the only way you can do it, do it. Like if that's the only way you can make a certain hike happen or something like that, I'm saying it's definitely worth doing that. But if you can have control over it, 20-mile days are such a good balance.
Yeah, we definitely don't regret doing this trip. It was awesome and a really good experience. But yeah, I think it could be more enjoyable even than it was had it not been so rushed.
Yeah.
But it was definitely cool to push ourselves this time. But next time, yeah, I agree. Let's do it a little bit different.
So let's take a second. I'll probably do a follow-up podcast at some point, or maybe it's on Ask OV, and I'll talk about like gear highlights from the trip, because there's some gear highlights. We had new gear out there. We were testing. Spoons are necessary.
Gear highlights.
But let's do just some kind of quick hit things to kind of wrap up some of this. So we did go back and get Craig. He had a whole, great time in Lake City, and you'll hear about that on the next episode. But but everything went pretty smooth there. His ankle did swell up. He sent us some pictures while we were out there. His ankle had swollen up a
Purple
ton.
and massive.
So from the time I'd left him that night to the next morning, it just swelled up like a balloon and just changed the dynamic. But let's just start off with like your favorite piece of gear on this hike and why. I'll go first since you guys aren't jumping at it. I'm going to go with the new Shadow Light. The new Shadow Light it's just incredible. Obviously, doing 6 days, we had to pack more food. I was packing some camera gear. I was packing some extra stuff from Craig. And so I had more weight than ever. But I would literally say like that pack on day one felt like some of our packs in the past have felt like if they only had 4 days of supplies or something like that. Like it just really took that much off of it. In my mind, the pack is just the best carrying ultralight pack, sub 2-pound backpack out there. The carbon frame is incredible. I won't give out all the details of like what's coming on this pack, but just know that the redesign of the Shadow Light, specifically in the harness and frame system, is a massive improvement in my mind. And I think it's the best carrying, most comfortable ultralight pack you're going to find. We did other updates, but I won't highlight those. And I do like all of the other updates, but particularly the carrying of the Shadow Light was probably my favorite piece of gear, especially you're also wearing it all day long. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I liked the Shadow Light too. That one definitely came to mind, but another one is the Tesher rain jacket. We definitely used that every day. I use it every day on this trip because we had so many rainstorms. But it was noticeable the amount of comfort you could still have or feel even when you're actively moving in a rain jacket. Typically, you expect to start feeling suffocated a little bit when you have to move and sweat and you're wearing some waterproof barrier like that. But with the Tesher, I actually felt really, really comfortable most of the time. Even when I left it on a number of times between rainstorms or between showers where it's like, okay, it looks like it's still going to rain, but it kind of let off for a second. I'm just going to leave it on. I did that a number of times and was still totally comfortable. Maybe it just unzipped the front when it was not actually raining and that was enough. So yeah, I really enjoyed using that piece.
Okay.
I think you guys kind of stole mine, but I think when I was thinking about it, there's 3 big pieces that came to mind, and it was the backpack because I think that's kind of the crown jewel of our kit for this trip because it's supporting everything, and without that pack, like what are we gonna do, And it has such upgraded features that I have the original Shadow Light. I've gotten tons of miles on it, and it was nice to see it keep the spirit of that award-winning pack, but then improve on the things that we've had feedback about that needed improving or that could use improving. So that was really good. The Tesher was completely invaluable, or is that the right way?
It was valuable or
it was non-valuable.
It was very valuable. it was quite nice.
It was nice.
Yeah. But the one that, especially where you guys have already mentioned those two, the one I really wanted to highlight, I'm actually wearing right now, is the joggers.
Oh, that's right. We were wearing shorts. He was the only one wearing joggers.
Yeah, and it was just nice because I had the comfort of just having my legs covered the whole week and not having to worry about sunscreen on my legs and worrying less about bugs, and it helped with the wind. And I don't know, it's just one of those things that, especially when you're doing 25 miles a day, you don't really think about, like, I don't think I could hike with pants for 25 miles a day, And it was nice being able to and having the features of that, but not getting overheated. And so, I don't know, I think it's kind of it was nice having that advanced technology, I guess, or like the next step that a lot of people don't realize is such a viable option. So I really enjoyed that.
I think the joggers are really cool for a lot of things that you just mentioned. But on the flip side, it depends on, I guess, your personality. I actually, now that I think about it, really enjoy the shorts for other reasons. So we talked about rain and walking past like greenery and trees and dumping all this water down on your legs and shoes. I did not care one bit wearing shorts because when my legs are going to dry, and I didn't really care if my calves and legs were wet. With trail runners, it was the same concept for me. Like as soon as it stops raining and I keep hiking, like I'm going to be totally dry and comfortable.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the shorts for that reason. But I did, to your point, I did have to put on a lot of bug spray and sunscreen on my calves because we were exposed so often, and my legs
Your legs look
looked
so bad.
like this mottled camouflage something going on down there. But between the dirt getting stuck in the bug spray and I didn't take the time to rub in all my sunscreen. So it was, yeah, I got some zebra stripes going on for sure.
Mm-hmm. That was funny.
Okay. That question is always a double-edged sword when you're talking to two marketers. They can really go on it. So I apologize for that. Next thing, kind of already talked about highlights, lowlights. So just a couple other quick things that come to mind. Biggest lesson from the trip, biggest thing you learned, and then your favorite food on the trip. Any one of those, just start whenever you're ready. I don't necessarily have the first thing highlighted in my own mind. So
biggest lesson for me personally was maybe becoming more aware of my own need to be more on top of my mentality. So Friday morning specifically, like I think I could have done some more mental prep work even before jumping back on the trail in the morning, knowing that the day before my feet had really started to feel pretty tenderized in the evening, to help myself not feel like so unmotivated during that morning. So yeah, mental prep actually does make a big difference. By Saturday, I had gotten better at that. My feet weren't really any better the next day. It was just more so my mentality and yeah, applying, that trick of trying to keep my feet raised when we took breaks. But really a lot of it was more mentality. So that was my lesson. Favorite food, I really never got tired of these chocolate chip cookie things. I brought these little
so
reward
good.
cookies for myself, one little packet each day. And they were a nice little reward.
Yeah.
did I not even see these things? Did you keep these hush hush or what?
I
don't
gave some to
remember
you.
these.
Yeah, Caden shared.
Yeah, that's when you threw the Oreos at me and I caught it midair like Spider-Man.
He traded you a chocolate chip cookie for that, I thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Hey, I felt pretty cool.
Yeah.
When you just threw them and it was way above my head and arm fully extended, caught it perfectly.
Stayed seated.
Yep, stayed seated. I felt pretty cool. I think my biggest lesson is pretty similar with mindset is, I've just like some of these guys, I mean, they're more impressive than like the stuff that they have done is more impressive than what I've done, but it's for the challenges that I've done personally, like different races and events or things that I've done personally, I've already proven to myself that I can put my head down and just grind. But going into this, I realized that I don't have the mental stamina to just grind for 6 days straight. I think that just wasn't healthy. And so I was like, all right, I need to go into this and figure out how I can make it not a grind and not have to just put my head down every day. And so I think as I chose to just really, and it was definitely a choice, just focus on my surroundings and being in the moment. I think that's really what helped me, because there's plenty of times where, like your feet are hurting or you're sore or things like that. And it's really easy to just get stuck in that moment, of like, oh man, my feet look like brains right now. This is not comfortable, because that definitely happened. But then in those moments, I just kept reminding myself, like, you know what? No, this is actually like super, super cool what I get to be out here, what I get to do out here. And then I'd put my head up and then look around and be like, okay, no, this is actually pretty awesome, And I realized more and more that I was doing that there were still really hard times and there were still times where my mood had dropped. But overall, it became such a positive experience where if I had just kept that put my head down and grind mindset for all of it, then I would have been completely miserable. Like I would have finished it, but it just made it such a positive experience and it put it in a way that I'm excited to do it again, in future years, especially as we're talking about miles and things like that. It's just a really positive experience, and it took effort, but it was good. As far as favorite food goes, I mean, the peak meals were really awesome. By the end of it, I got a little bit tired of eating stew every day. But the thing that I didn't get tired of was when I got the tortilla and then I had those packets of chicken with like the garlic and herb spices, and then you get mayo packet, mustard packet, and put some cheese in there. That just hit every single day. And I was like, this doesn't get old. It was so good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that like for some reason having that kind of stuff for lunch, it's like the time of day when your body's just craving all of those things. You know what
the
I mean? It's such
vinegar
a
and the
good
salts and
mix.
fats and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, favorite food, I brought those like, I call them adult licorice. It's like the wallaby or whatever, like Australian licorice things. Those were so good. I've never brought those before, but they were money for like a snack. I always love dried mangoes, so I had some of those, but like those for some reason were just something new I brought that I really liked. We also were eating some of the new Trail Goods Co. meals that you can find in the membership now. There's 4 meals, and they're awesome. Luke is the guy who's started that company. He's worked with another company on building meals before, and so we know him. And biggest thing there, meals are really tasty, really good. Very happy with the packaging. I repackaged all of my Peak Refuel meals because they're just so freaking big, and they don't listen to us when we say that their packaging needs to shrink. But you know, Peak meals are great. I didn't feel the need to with the Trail Goods Co. packaging. It's quite a bit smaller and stuff, but that was just something new to consider if you're heading out there that you can find inside the membership.
And the peach rings. Those aren't in the membership, but I remember the peach rings.
The peach rings,
They're
yeah,
so
I
good.
alternated licorice and peach rings. That was like one of the things I altered. That was good. Biggest lesson, you know, I'm just going to go on food, actually. You guys kind of nailed some of the other stuff that's readily available. A lot of the other stuff, it's like, you know, I've done a lot of these, so it's not like there's like a tactical lesson. But I do think you can absolutely nail nutrition. And I think I did okay with nutrition, but I still was slightly under-caloried for quite a few of the days by like I said, like 300 calories or 500 calories, like not a lot of calories. And I think that was my lesson going into this, is just that I should have brought a little bit more food. I would rather slightly err over on food than under. I think that would have added some additional enjoyment for me to have a little bit more food. I actually was kind of under-caloried, I felt like, until we hit that day where we hit Trail Magic twice.
Yeah.
And then I kind of banked some food that day, and then I used that for other things. And by that point, Caden was trying to offload some of his food. And so the last couple of days were definitely just a little more enjoyable than the first. And if you are going to like go on a trip, it is probably easier to pack your first days a little bit heavier on calories than your last days. And then if you have extra, you can carry that down the line per se. And you also kind of fatigue out of food, or you get in a rhythm where you're not eating as much, or just different things. But also just the aspect of calories also help you with hydration and absorption of water. And so, you know, eating calories and drinking and electrolytes, they all add up to help you hydrate and to avoid things like altitude sickness. So just that's probably my biggest thing is I ran a little too lean on the food this year, and I wish that I hadn't.
I did pretty good, actually. I only started like stockpiling a bunch of food the last day and a half. So Saturday, I didn't need as much food as I packed for sure for Saturday. And then like a bunch of Friday also, I ended up not eating a lot of it. So
Well, you know, Tayson, what really helps with food is if you mix the water with the oatmeal before you eat it.
It's not a bite of oatmeal and then a sip of water, is what you're saying.
So one of these food items that Tayson begged off of Caden was oatmeal and
Protein oatmeal.
Yeah, banana nut. That's how you know it's good.
And apparently I didn't mix it that well, because like the first bite I was like, this isn't that flavorful. Second bite, this isn't that flavorful. And then like a third bite I was like, oh my gosh, that is like overload flavor. So I hadn't fully mixed it, so it was giving me a hard time. But yeah, I need to do a video on it. It's been a long time since I've done it, but I do think that the way that I do food is really good. Variety wise, I kind of like, I've just found it to be the easiest, fastest way to pack food. That still gives you like good variety. And I think that's a thing that I do correctly do with food. Is like I said, even with like the licorice and peachios, I would like alternate those. I alternate a lot of food so I don't get food fatigue. And that's something that's pretty easy to do. So, I probably need to make some kind of video or something about just the fastest way to pack backpacking food that's convenient. So, but yeah, I mean, we did it. We did 140 miles, biggest OV trip in company history. We only lost 2 people, so pretty good numbers, a 60% success rate on this trip. Not our highest, but incredible trip nonetheless. If you have never been into the San Juan Mountains in Colorado, top tier. There's not many places that are that exceptionally beautiful and that high of altitudes and just that many miles of nothing but amazing mountains. Even as we got off the trail and we're driving around it, we're driving for 2 hours and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is the same mountain range for just 2 hours. And I know that I could continue to drive around it for another 3 hours, like it's just a huge, vast, beautiful mountain range that you should have on your list to go spend some time on. Any closing thoughts on just how the OV100 trip went or
yeah. So if you're feeling like Caden did before going on the trip, I would tell you the same thing I tried telling him. You just have to try it. Obviously, make sure you're prepared to try it, but don't let that hesitation of never having done something like that before stop you from doing it the first time, because you really just might have something like Caden had happen where you just really love it and are super pumped for the next time. So that's kind of a plug I would put in.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you're capable of a lot more than you think that you are. And you're not, obviously you want to be safe about it, but when you eventually die or get older or whatever, like you want to look back on your life and remember that you did stuff, you want to take that opportunity no matter where you are, whether you're just barely in your 20s or younger, or whether you're approaching retirement or in your 80s. Obviously be safe about it, but there's still time to do things, but you got to do it now. There's no time like the present.
Yeah. I think that's a good wrap. It was an amazing trip. The OV100 is always worth doing. The stories we hear year after year after year inside of the Facebook group where people kind of share their experiences doing them is incredible. And I think it's always worth looking backward, like trying to fast forward your life forward and then looking backwards and asking yourself, like, what will I be more happy I chose to do, 10 years down the line or at the end of my life or something like that. So kind of like I mentioned with the San Luis Peak, I kind of choose to live my life that way where it's like, what am I going to regret more, like doing the peak or not doing the peak? Not necessarily which is harder today, but what am I going to be happiest I did tomorrow once the work's done? And I think that you can do a lot more, just like you're saying, Caden, than people think. I mean, every day that we were talking about, I'm like, holy crap, that was a long day. Like we went from here to here to here to here. Like, but it is incredible what you can do and how far you can walk and how much you can cover. And I think any trip like this, it almost has like this curve of a lifetime where you have lowlights and you have highlights. You have moments where you're exuberantly happy. You have moments where you're dang near want to cry or something like that. And I think there's something unique about that leaves a lasting impression, creates a real story in your mind. Your mind really can grow and learn and latch onto those kinds of things and just experiences you don't forget. So hopefully, if nothing else, this inspires you guys to get out there. Like I mentioned earlier, I mean, the whole purpose behind Outdoor Vitals is to get people into the vital outdoors and to connect them with it so that you guys can live a life with no regrets and you can, disconnect from this crazy world and grow and have a reset, both, mentally, emotionally, physically. And that's what these trips bring. So super happy we were able to do it. Glad that Caden was able to come. Did you regret it?
Not at all.
Were we wrong in pushing you just a little bit to come?
Not at all.
Okay,
I'm appreciative of it. Thank you.
We were a little bit nervous we'd get him out there and be like, "This sucks. Why'd
You made me come.
No, we
It's
knew
fantastic.
we knew you were a little bit gun shy because that shakeout trip you did was a little rough in terms of just the trail and the altitude and all that stuff. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you guys want to bring a hiking partner on a 100-mile hike next year, share this podcast with them and get them geared up to join the OV100 for next year. We open registration for that usually in the spring, and we give out a ton of bonuses with that. So it's really like a free DIY challenge, but we do make you put a little skin in the game so that you're like motivated to go do it. But then we give you bonuses and stuff that are worth more than the registration value. But get your buddies on the train. So share this podcast with them. Make sure you guys are subscribed for more to come on this with Craig and with some other takeaways. And we'll see you guys in a future episode.